Discover the advantage of unlimited access to all the stories and resources from IBJ and inside Indiana business. From insights to inspiration, business leaders rely on the IBJ for all things Indiana business. Start your $1 a week trial now at ibj.com/trial offer.
This is Inside Indiana Business Radio for the afternoon of Thursday, March 19th, 2026. I'm Alex Brown. Fort Wayne leaders have approved tax incentives for the redevelopment of the long-vacant Scottish Rite complex, clearing the way for a nearly $48 million project aimed at transforming the historic property into a performing arts and events venue. Nancy Townsend, executive director for Serac Enterprises, which owns the building, calls the effort a public-private partnership.
This building is a community landmark. It's an historic landmark, and maintaining it and renovating it is impactful to our community, to our state, and actually our national inventory. There's a lot of interest in partnering with us on this project at the national, state, and hopefully here we'll find at the local level.
Plans call for major structural and aesthetic upgrades as well as wider seating, reducing capacity from 1,900 to between 1,600 and 1,700 seats, along with updated backstage areas and loading facilities. Purdue University Fort Wayne this week announced its latest efforts to make higher education more affordable. The university said it will waive the standard $30 application fee and the $50 enrollment deposit for domestic undergraduate students applying for the fall semester. Additionally, students with a high school or transfer GPA of 2.5 or higher are eligible for scholarships ranging from $500 to $3,000 annually. Evansville Regional Airport leaders are hoping new accessible indoor navigation technology will help passengers move through the building more independently. Through a partnership with Louisville-based Good Maps, a mobile app will give users precise directions and audio guidance to help users locate key areas such as ticket counters, security checkpoints, gates, and amenities. From the #1 source for Indiana business news, this is Inside Indiana Business Radio.
Thanks for listening to this IBJ Media podcast. You're probably going to remember this ad. Do you know why? Podcast advertising works. 85% of listeners recalled hearing an ad during a podcast, and 70% of podcast listeners have acted after hearing an ad. So whether you're looking to be heard across the entire IBJ Media podcast network, sponsor one of our shows, or just start with a 30-second ad, IBJ Media can help. Contact advertise at ibj.com to learn more.
The city of Elkhart has rolled out a new rental inspection program aimed at making homes safer and better maintained. In a Q&A for our South Bend Elkhart Region Report newsletter, Amy Latimer, Customer and Executive Services Manager with the city's Building and Code Department, said the program builds on the city's existing code enforcement efforts but emphasizes prevention, aiming to address issues before they become emergencies.
We just felt that we needed to more gear towards let's prevent, just some of these really bad scenarios to happen. We also had an incident with a carbon monoxide leak, and that happened December of, I believe it was 2024. And that really kick-started the need to have rental inspections so that we don't run into those kinds of issues anymore.
You can read the full Q&A at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. Saying the change will help government move at the speed of business while maintaining transparency, members of the Indiana Economic Development Corporation board voted Wednesday to allow agency staff greater authority over awarding tax incentives to major projects. The policy, which was approved unanimously, calls for IEDC staff to submit a full report to the board each quarter of all projects receiving tax credits. However, the board ended a long-standing policy that required proposals seeking $3 million or more in tax incentives to receive full board approval. Farmer sentiment saw a slight improvement in February, though agricultural producers are still wary about what the future will bring, according to the latest Purdue University CME Group Ag Economy Barometer. Purdue's Michael Langemeyer pointed to the barometer's index of future expectations, which fell to its lowest level since September 2024, before the last presidential election.
I think what's going on is that the relatively tough environment we're facing today is expected to continue into the future. A couple of the questions that go into the index of future expectations are worded as, do you expect to have good times or bad times financially in the next 5 years? It really tells me that the crop producers are expecting at least 2 or 3 more tough years.
According to the survey, 44% of respondents said their farm operations were worse off in February than the previous year. Additionally, 29% said they expect their farm's financial performance to worsen over the next 12 months, as opposed to 18% who anticipated an improvement. Huntington University President Rob Pepper is this week's guest on the Business and Beyond podcast with Gary Dick, presented by PNC, a weekly conversation with high-profile Hoosiers in business, sports and entertainment, and beyond. Available now on the IBJ Media app or your favorite podcast provider. I'm Alex Brown for Inside Indiana Business Radio on Demand.
Hi, I'm Dave Neff, host of Talent Scout. On this show, we shine a light on Indiana's next generation of leaders who are making a difference in business, community, and civic life. These are real conversations about purpose, mentorship, and building a future that matters. Join me as we invest in leadership that lasts. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast app or listen at ibjpodcasts.com.
Do you want to know what really drives change in Indiana? You won't find it in sound bites, you'll find it in stories. Stories from CEOs, lawyers, coaches, entrepreneurs, and community advocates. That's the IBJ Media Podcast Network. Insightful, local, impactful. Find all of our shows by searching IBJ Media in your podcast app or visit ibjpodcast.com.